The biggest night in Hollywood is almost here. This weekend, actors, directors, and producers come together to celebrate the art of filmmaking. Meanwhile, movie studios and streaming companies will be looking to count up awards from nominees like Everything Everywhere All at Once and The Banshees of Inisherin. Still, traditional studios appear to have a slight edge. Yahoo Finance's Canal has the details.
The 2023 Oscars is looking a bit different this year as streaming giants come up short and the focus shifts once again to traditional Hollywood studios. Here's how we got here and why the decline in streaming nominations might not be as dire as it looks. Streamers garnered about half the amount of nominations in 2023 compared to 2022, with the big three, Netflix, Apple, and Amazon, receiving just 19 nods in total versus last year's 37. Netflix was the most nominated of the bunch with 16 total nods, followed by Apple with 2 and Amazon with just 1. Keep in mind, Apple actually walked away with Best Picture in 2022 thanks to Coda. At the time, the win was categorized as a huge breakthrough moment for streamers, and it seems like finally the lines between traditional film studios and streaming exclusives had been blurred. But it seems like the Academy isn't giving in that easily. In fact, streamers were completely shut out of popular categories this year like Best Director. Remember, Jane Campion won in 2022 for Netflix's Power of the Dog. Not only that, but the number of nominations has been on a steady downward trend in recent years. Still, there's one big question to ask. Does this all matter? Oscar viewership has struggled, especially as the top moments usually end up on Twitter or YouTube relatively quickly. According to Nielsen, 2022's Academy Awards drew in 16.6 million viewers. That was actually up 58% from 2021's record low of 10.5 million, but still the second worst viewership number in the show's 94-year history. And let's take a movie like Knives Out, Glass Onion, for example. Only one Oscar nomination for Best Adapted Screenplay, but still the fourth most watched Netflix original of all time, with nearly 280 million hours viewed in its first 28 days on the platform. That's a pretty strong showing for a film not rolling in nominations.
This is truly delightful.
Or what about Top Gun Maverick, Avatar: The Way of Water, two of the highest grossing films in 2022, and yet nominated just 2 and 4 times respectively?
Just want to manage expectations.
You see, before streaming, there were obvious boosts in box office receipts after a film was nominated or won an Oscar. But with all the changes in media, it's hard to really judge the quote-unquote payout of an Oscar win, especially for streamers, which care most about subscribers. So even though streaming platforms may not be enjoying the same level of Oscar attention as they received in the past, it doesn't mean they don't have just as much, if not more, visibility, with hundreds of millions of paying users at their fingertips. That being said, the Oscars is the biggest award show stage of them all, with many industry watchers adamant that Academy Award wins and nominations do still matter. It just might not matter as much to the streamers, which are way more focused on subscribers and profitability than Oscar statuettes.
Allie's with us here on set. Are people still invested in the Oscars, though? Or, speaking about everyday viewers, that is?
Yeah, and that's a big question. And like we saw in that package, the Oscar viewership, that's been on a steady decline. The production team, they've tried different types of strategies to try and lure in viewers. We've had no hosts. Last year, we had 3 hosts. This year, Jimmy Kimmel is coming back. But I do think there seems to be a disconnect between the everyday viewer and then, the Academy, right? And I think, especially if you look at the types of movies that have been nominated in the past, those big budget blockbuster movies, those films that have garnered billions and billions of dollars at the box office, they're not necessarily getting that same recognition. One that comes to mind to me is Spider-Man: No Way Home in 2021. This was really the first big film that was back since the pandemic. It grossed nearly $2 billion globally, and yet it only received 1 nomination for visual effects, none for Best Picture. This year it's a bit different since we do have Top Gun Maverick and Avatar: The Way of Water nominated for Best Picture. I don't think they'll win, but still a step there. And we did hear from IMAX CEO Richard Gelfond. He was on the show earlier this week talking about this shift to potentially seeing more blockbusters in that nomination pool. Here's what he had to say.
Hollywood a little bit lost its way with the Oscars, and I think it was a little too much inside baseball and it was a little too much streaming movies. This year's movies are a lot more like old-fashioned movies, big special effects, big stars, big cultural events, global events in the world. And I think if the Oscars want to remain relevant, they needed to move back to that direction. I think it's great they're doing it.
So we'll see if this is a one-off trend, if this is something that will continue. Again, I don't think those movies will win. I think it's going to go to Everywhere, Everything All at Once. That has been the award show darling this season. I think it's their win to lose. So we'll see. I don't know. Have you guys watched any of these movies? Are you excited for the Oscars?
I have not had time to watch any movies, but I know you will be watching the Oscars.
Yeah, I definitely will not.
And you are going to give us the lowdown.
Yes, that's
Julie's a Twitter next day. Yes.
I go to bed.
That's a lot. It's late. I know. It's
I can't wait
3.5 hours.
And
long.
also, I too have not seen any of these movies, but I will at some point in the future.
Exactly. And maybe whoever wins, maybe that'll.
I've been wanting to see Everything Everywhere all at once.
You'll tell us which ones to watch, Allie.
Absolutely.
Canal. Thank you.